Hello and welcome to an episode of HYPIA Polyglot Interviews. I am the president of HYPIA, Dr. Usman Chauhan, and today I have the particular pleasure of having with me on our first interview, Director for Recruitment at HYPIA, Matias Barmat from Argentina. Matias, it's a pleasure to have you.
Welcome to everybody. Welcome to the amazing world of Hyperpolyglots. And for me, it's a greatest pleasure and the greatest honor to detect hyperpolyglots worldwide from every social network in order to show how amazing is this non-profit organization.
Yeah, thank you. It's only been possible thanks to your help. So, Matías, you joined a long time ago with HYPIA, and it was my pleasure to invite you because of the proactiveness that you showed as a regular member. But you were so active, you were so engaged, and you brought other people along that I figured it only made sense to have somebody as enthusiastic as you as part of the team. So tell us a little bit about that journey of yours to join HYPIA and then as Director of Recruitment.
Well, first of all, one day in February 2018, I decided to take advantage of a video I have recorded showing my ability with languages that I made in November 2017. I remember that famous video of Richard Simcott, and I tried to emulate him in a so-called hyperpolyglot video. And when I realized about the existence of HYPIA in February 2018, and when I realized that the requirements to join HYPIA were available to my skills, to being for free, and the reason of being for free is for ethical purposes. That's there are a concept, an NGO to engage mutual understanding through language and cultural diversity, the mission, vision, and values. I felt somewhat identified, and I decided to apply. And in February 2018, I arrived to HYPIA as a common user. But later, March, April 2018, I realized that as you are a busy people with because of your personal duties, that you have not precisely enough spare time to grow the organization. Yes. I decided by my own to check out worldwide in which other different communities I could pick up other people who can speak 6 languages or more. I mean, 6 languages fluent or 7-day conversational from HYPIA standards. And then I realized that as I was already member of Mundolingo, those social live events held in different bars, and as Mundolingo Buenos Aires was the strongest city of that organization, I realized that I could pick up some acquaintances who meet the criteria. I began to incorporate to send an empty interview and an empty essay, and to offer to join HYPIA, but spontaneously on a basis that I don't have yet a formal email. So I began to send requirements. My famous mail, Matias from HYPIA, and after Mundolingo, I got contacts from Clube Poliglota Brasil, a huge organization with 150,000 users from 40 Brazilian different cities, but with worldwide chats from Facebook, from WhatsApp and Telegram, and we included Poliglota Brazil different language channels. I became friends from Hitson Guimaraes, Esteban Fortunato, and other actually fellow members.
Yeah.
In addition to this, I began to pick up through LinkedIn or through any other source. And by my surprise, I woke up one morning in August 2018 that, hey, congratulations, Matias, you are director of recruitment. Well, and in that sense, I felt myself honored because as such, I can keep continuing my task to offer to join HYPIA, because as I always said, HYPIA is not only, HYPIA is not such a certificate of hyperpolyglottism. It's the formal entry to an NGO comprised by hyperpolyglots.
Correct.
It's not only to show your ability or skills with languages, but also the commitment to keep learning languages in order to improve our mutual human understanding, or improve the understanding among peoples.
Absolutely, absolutely. This adherence to the values is actually one thing I also want to emphasize in this important interview, is the fact that it's not a public relations exercise. It's not a marketing thing. We've never charged anybody any money. We've never advertised per se. We've got a fun and happening social media page that's just coincidental. And we've got people being interested just out of research. There are people during coronavirus who have taken the time to browse and find our institution, but we're not out there to do the circuit, so to speak, in terms of showing our peacock feathers and our abilities as polyglots. The idea is, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about us, the community. And so what happens with HYPIA is that many people who do look it up, look at the list of members, and they say, well, I've never seen this guy on the circuit, because there's a lot of self-promotion in the industry. And what it does is it takes away from the genuine values of respecting, of coming to mutual aid, and discovering one another's culture. I believe that you, Matías, have embodied this in a very powerful manner. Your humility, your cooperation, your sense of friendship with new members, with old members, becomes an anchor of HYPIA. Oftentimes, it's almost normal to direct new members towards you. Oh, you want to know what we're up to? We'll talk to Matías, this guy, in that manner, you see. So my salute to you. Tell the audience about the languages that you do speak and want to speak.
Well, right now, well, as you know, Spanish is my first language. On a basis, I was born in Buenos Aires. I can speak English and Catalan at C1 level. Also Italian and Portuguese at B2 level. I mean, those 5 languages, even though I can work professionally. Somewhat basic professional at B1 level in French, Romanian, and Galician. I can hold conversations or speaking at A2 level in Basque, Euskera, Greek, Turkish, and Hebrew, and between A1 and A2 in German and Dutch. In that sense, well, 12 language at A2 level onwards, it's somewhat that although there's a lot, at the same time as hyperpolyglots, it's natural for us first to pick up languages faster, and second to be completely commit to keep learning language in the sense that no matter how many mistakes, no matter how many or grammatical errors or lack of vocabulary or lack of fluency, try it anyway. Well, in that sense, I can also count other A1 languages like Arabic, Macedonian, Serbo-Croatian, or Polish, or well, the language I'm still studying. But although I'm not conformed with the level I have right now, I discovered that there are a lot of people who speaks 20, 25, 30 languages, even though even already well known within the hyperpolyglot community. And let's pick up them and let's show that that we are not offering him just only to associate or to only be a fellow members. It's first of all, the first differentiator element is that the criteria for accessing HYPIA is somewhat low in order to be considered a hyperpolyglot. However, on a basis that already we have had some people who qualifies as a hyperpolyglot for higher standards, okay, I realize that the community is in itself, there are mainstream fellow members. So why don't still pick up such people who speaks 10 or 15 or 20 language, but also people who speaks only 6 or 7, that they are as important as us. If I speak 6, 12, 18, 24, or 30, I'm still being considered as a hyperpolyglot because HYPIA standards are inclusive. HYPIA standards are committed to keep spreading the word to make, I mean, to keep spreading the word. When I talk about commitment, is about to keep learning languages to make this word a better word. Through our ability to keep learning languages, we are making a better word simply by easing the communication among us.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
In fact, yeah, tell me, continue.
Well, no, I was just going to agree with you. The fact that it's 6, but then there's 12, but then there's 18. There's always this trade-off in the human mind between breadth and depth. So if you have somebody who has basic conversations in 20 languages, but there's not much substance to them, it's quite a bit different than, for example, somebody who did do 6, 7, or 8, but they, for example, published peer-reviewed journal articles or written a book in 5 of them. So we always have this interesting dilemma, looking at breadth and depth, and to then gather what is the substance behind the speaker, because the communication architecture that the human body has is translating ideas from the mind and projecting them out and taking things from the outside and putting them back in the mind. And so it's always very difficult for us to really have the fixed standards. They're kind of, it's not a science, but more of an art to determine who is fluent and who isn't in subtle manners, because some people can converse in certain conditions, but not in others. Some people are fluent because they manage in a certain way, but they still don't know much if they look at the depth of the language, whether it's age, whether it's something else. There's a lot more to it.
And this is especially true. In that sense, it's extremely difficult to measure the real level because some members have learned the language. Every one of us is more prone to learn a language through different methods. Every one of us has its own methodology, and every language has its own learning technique that even though can vary among languages, and even though every language has its own story. So in the sense that why I speak that language at A2 level, however, it's about the difficulty of the language, or it's about a story life which is linked to my language learning. Being, for example, by descent or by my family or my community or by traveling or by working abroad, or even by just curiosity. Also, answering your question, everybody of us, when we are talking about A2 level, B1 level, or else, not everybody of us, not everybody of us has the same level among listening comprehension, writing comprehension, or listening expression or writing expression.
Precisely.
For example, or speaking or writing. For example, my French, although I tell everybody that my French is B1 level, is in reality an average from B2 speaking, B1 writing, or but for example, my listening comprehension is A2. Or even though I can speak B1 in Greek, however, I didn't pass the exam of A2 level in Greek. However, my Greek is functional. I had conversations of up to half an hour in Greek. The same, for example, my Hebrew, I learned Hebrew in my bar mitzvah or my Jewish background at non-informal level, but from 13 years old up to 30, I only speak, I couldn't speak at not more than A1 level. Right now I can speak Hebrew at A2 level. I mean, in that sense, to differentiate the real, or to measure the real level of every language among our fellow members, or even though our potential candidates, it's not easy. However, HYPIA is not strict in the sense to, okay, give me a C1 exam, or give me a B2 exam, or a first certificate, or an advanced, or a TOEFL, because HYPIA is an NGO. It's more like social responsibility. It's feedback to the community.
It is, and go ahead.
I want to ask you something very important about the tradition of your family, because HYPIA has its roots from your family, who is also a family of polyglots and hyperpolyglots. Your father speaks
5 or 6.
Speaks 5 languages. Neila, the ambassador, speaks 7 languages, even though she has learned Spanish at the age of 51. And even though Plaza Pakistani in Buenos Aires, near to the Hippodrome, was inaugurated by your mom, it was a surprise. You yourself, you speak 9 or 10 languages at different levels, but in that sense, tell me about that tradition, about your ancestry, your journey about the world, because you have traveled, you have lived at least two years in at least 8 or 9 countries.
Well, the truth is that we should probably do a separate interview about that journey, because it'll take so long. But the fact that there are traditions, there is a genetic element, there is a nurture element, is very important. So if I speak 9 or 10, it's because, well, the father spoke 5, but the mother spoke 7, 8, 9, depending on how you measure. So I think that nurture element of encouraging that polyglottism, taking it for granted, in fact, early on, then traveling around and putting those things to the test, and then also the genetic element. So if your parents can manage it, you probably can manage it too, helps. But at the same time, you will notice that in HYPIA, we have people of all ages. I know we have a kid who joined at the age of 15. And we had an African-American gentleman who was 65 when he joined. It was never too late to learn. And I don't think that their parents necessarily, I get the indication that for most people, their parents had not uncovered it, maybe a latent genetic thing, but they certainly didn't come from the background where it was so encouraged. So I may have had a leg up And I certainly worked on depth. So, for example, I do, I mean, I've published and written in about 6 languages, whether it's op-eds or peer-reviewed journal articles. That's depth. So you really got to know what you're saying at that level to argue with academics. But in terms of breadth, well, I wouldn't even count those languages. And you and I come from a language family, Indo-European, which is so versatile. It connects with so many other languages. So the jump from Urdu to Farsi is not very big, just like the jump from Castellano to Catalan is not that large. So we're quite fortunate.
Jo mateix vaig aprendre català en 3 mesos.
In 3 months, you get that far. It's remarkable, right? But then there are people who make the jumps that are very hard. And for those languages where I did make very big jumps, I have to bridge the chasm again. So that means that, for example, I studied Chinese for 3 years, then went to Tsinghua University, was top of my class, competing against Chinese students at a master's level in economics. It was half English and half Chinese in my curriculum. Other people, it was different. But now if you ask me to bust that Chinese out, it won't come spontaneously because of the dislocation. It needs to be revived. Things die in the mind, or they sleep in the mind. They're dormant. Same with Japanese. You study for 4 years and then you move to Tokyo and you're working there for a while and you're doing fine. But then if you're not connected to Tokyo or connected to Japan, you lose it. So as we grow in terms of the breadth, we lose some of the depth. Now, I had a question for you, which is that, this journey has been short. HYPIA is new. It's not 30 years old. It's more like 4, almost. And we've got 100 members without any advertising, without any of this, and with strict background checks and all of the evidence and all of that rigor, we have made it to 100 plus recently. So that's a little victory for you and me.
106 members, I mean 97 standard members and 9 RSL or Rare Specialist Language Net.
Yeah.
106 in only 4 years.
Without any advertising, without any marketing, anything like that. We don't self-promote, nothing like that. So now that and I see the pace accelerating after Corona, more people are interested and they're either working on their languages or wanting to demonstrate them. So where do you see HYPIA? I have a vision. What is your vision for HYPIA? 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Well, in my vision, first of all, we are keeping doing this important task of spreading polyglottism, but spreading polyglottism in our way, because as much as there are other polyglot or hyperpolyglot association, you can realize that we have more or less between maybe 500,000 or 1 million polyglots or hyperpolyglots spreading worldwide. Yeah. So if we have only 100 and there are another 499 or 999,000 waiting for us, so we can make this world a better world. However, there are another NGOs that the others are involved, and we are in the task not only respecting other NGOs, but also collaborate with them and also incorporate them as fellow members, because as a virtual organization, we normally are members of cross-wide organizations. We are affiliated to more than one organization, but HYPIA has its own differential. HYPIA has its own identity, and HYPIA has its own mission, vision, and values that, although those values don't crash with others, but we can complement. We can make some kind of partnership as a as a free basis. But however, however, my goal or my mission or my vision is to keep spreading HYPIA to spread the word in the not only social media but also in the press, the repercussion, the newspapers. But my vision is also part of your own vision, how what do you pretend to be HYPIA in the near future? From my point of view, I can watch a bright future for us and for the organization to keep spreading, but also another very important issue, to create added value.
Mm-hmm.
I always said that being a member of HYPIA as social responsibility and that your interview in English post in the website means an added value to be included in your CV, LinkedIn, resume, and in that sense, another of our commitments is to create added value.
I understand. I agree with you. It has been a difficult journey in the sense that we all have other occupations. We have lives outside of HYPIA. We don't, it's not the core of who we are necessarily. I mean, it's very important to us, but you know, you have a life of your own. I have a life of my own, working in government, working in the private sector, working in the public sector, you know, doing so many other things. Languages then becomes one of the many things that characterizes the breadth. So here I'm going against the depth and breadth argument, the breadth of who we are. We can never be the core. So what we have to do is try to find people who have the same sorts of energies that we have, to then take it, branches out and goes and grows.
Indeed, as much as I began involved personally in this great organization without asking you if I can do it or more, I mean, I know that other people, like for example Eduardo Teiga,
mm-hmm.
I know more or less his history about he's Portuguese, living in Luxembourg, and then last year went to the Polyglot gathering, and he exposed about HYPIA, but spontaneously, with little or no guidelines, but with a lot of common sense. And what's the point? When we check out that, hey, when we figure out that you made a great work, okay, one day director of outreach. Maybe, right. maybe I know somebody, 2 or 3 of our fellow members who can serve to help in our task. For example, maybe Carlos Quiebra Lopez, or maybe, okay, there are 2 or 3 names listing it, but I don't remember right now, but I know there are a lot who are committed to do so.
Perfect. It's also interesting because the way the world is now, you have 2 countervailing forces. You have the anti-globalization and the globalization. There's an aspect of economics in that, but then there's the globalization of human culture. On one hand, people are becoming more McDonald's in jeans. On the other hand, they're being exposed to new cultures, diversifying their interests. And it's a difficult time to judge. HYPIA has a great deal of clarity in that blur. It stands very much on one pole.
Exactly.
Respect for all cultures and promoting them. That's where our rare language part comes in too. To protect those that are dying is very important. So where do you think? That's right. So in the next 10 or 20 years, what do you think are the problems that people who want to learn languages will face? It's not so much technological, right? What do you think is the problem?
I think that we speak multiple languages by a bunch of reasons. First of all, the multiple identities. Being a member of specific community, the country I were born, even though if my region of my country speaks another co-official language, or even though if I have to travel, or if I have to work outside, the pressure. Another important issue that I detect is the pressure market. I mean, a lot of languages will tend to disappear due to the pressure markets. However, instead of Well, I said in my personal interview that I'm pessimistic in the sense that there are 4 reasons why do languages disappear in 100 years. I used to say, okay, the 4 reasons are territorial conquest, religious imposition, economic interest, and cultural industry. Well, in that sense, I guess that in this in this framework, the languages not necessarily tend to completely disappear. On a basis, we have multiple identities, and however, the status quo will force us to keep mainstream languages, middle range languages, and minority language. And in that sense, there are a lot of vulnerable or endangered languages that HYPIA has the commitment to save most of them. So that's why we have created the language, the rare language specialists or RSLs, and I really get increasingly amazing about projects like Wikitongues. For example, as I told you that there are a chance to keep picking up hyperpolyglot, standard hyperpolyglot members from the sources I told you before. In the case of rare specialist language, we can, for example, Wikitongues is a great source to contact them and to tell them how important it is not only to film a video saving your languages, but also how important is your language to be known for anybody who is interested to learn it, or for even though discovering their heritage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as linear as it seems, and it's a very, very hard task.
Yes, it's not easy. That creates a lot of worry, but at the same time, we talk about the growth of polyglottism. I also believe, maybe you share this, that in 20 years there will be, in absolute terms, not just in relative, but in absolute terms, more polyglots and possibly hyperpolyglots out there, just because of the availability of technology and the communication infrastructure.
Undoubtedly, because even though as in spite of not everybody has the ability to learn languages naturally, some people, some millions of people, that ability that's not innate, that ability that's not precisely innate, they can acquire by extremely training. And why do that people have to train languages, and from night to morning have to discover that I need to speak 5 languages. I need to speak the 4 or 5 languages the market or the global market requires me, and I don't have the chance. For example, somebody can say I don't have the chance to learn more than 2 or 3 languages because I don't need that in my daily life. Really? In 10 or 20 years, some of the professions or the jobs, some of the job postings there were traditional job postings. In 10 or 20 years, they will disappear. So if you don't reinvent by learning languages, by forcing you learning languages, you're lost.
I agree. It's always been a competitive advantage. Even if you look at the historical record, there were some people who were so gifted at this that they used it to do incredible things, including diplomacy, including politics, including trading, merchant, commerce. And that spirit is still there. It's only going to become more powerful, and it'll create a bigger asymmetry. The world ahead of us might be one of greater inequality, I'm afraid, because of the structures of capitalism, for example. And so because of that, to shine, you may have to do it under the competition of capitalism rather than the willpower of communism or something.
I mean, not only the capitalism, but the lack of social justice in the world. Even though the most centrist or somewhat center-right, even though in those governments there must have some kind of social justice. The social justice, the cooperation, to try to create public value, as you have written.
My man.
in that precisely in that sense, regardless the political color, you must have a little bit sense of social justice in order to create opportunities in education, public education, public health. In that sense, I completely agree with you. And in that sense, languages, like it or not, are also a powerful tool for working, for daily life, but also it's an advantage to learn other cultures and to understand them better. And there are also powerful tools to access information in this era of dataism, in this era of data saturation, in this era of human encyclopedia. Knowing foreign languages is an advantage to access that information beforehand, and in that sense, it's in some cases it's necessary for living.
Agreed. If I can provide some concluding remarks, HYPIA is very much a collaborative effort, and it couldn't have been done by one person. Having somebody with the volunteer spirit that you've had and the proactiveness with which, for example, people have joined HYPIA thanks to you, it's duly appreciated. In the long run, it'll be part of our legacies, your legacy, my legacy, and HYPIA's as a larger institution than us, larger NGO than we are as individuals. It'll be part of the efforts that you've made will pay back with a larger community that will live on after we are gone. And that's the exciting part. So it's very much appreciated.
Good point. Although HYPIA was founded by you, and although I am right now a director of recruitment, HYPIA must continue their existence regardless us, because we are not eternals. I am 41 years old and you are 33.
Yes.
So, exactly, in November 1986. I'm 10 September 22nd, 78. So, the point is, regardless us, HYPIA must keep existing, and in that sense, HYPIA must have not only critical base, but also the reason, the raison d'etre behind this must be spread, well-known, and well-positioned, not only among hyperpolyglot community, but also among linguistic community itself. That's what is extremely important. The repercussions, how can I say, the press releases, the media, that everybody speaks well about us. Not only some fellow members who are, hey, I'm on it, I'm on HYPIA. It's not only to belong. It's also that to try that everybody who qualifies, or as much as possible, belongs, because there are a reason behind this. It's not only to speak 6 languages or more. It's a commitment. It's a life commitment.
Absolutely. So on that happy note, Matías, thank you very much. This concludes our
the pleasure is mine, and of course we are keep talking about and to adjust details for even more. For me, the greatest honor, Meritos. Shukriya.
Shukriya mere dost. Thank you everybody for listening, and I hope this gives you an insight into how HYPIA has grown. It's small, it's humble, but it will gain and become more inclusive with time. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks.